When it comes to scary clowns, I think two automatically come to mind: Pennywise the Dancing Clown and Ronald McDonald. The second one obviously being the worst. But there is another clown who has graced the horror genre, and I think he is fast becoming another cult character. This particular clown wears a black and white suit, he has a disturbing white face with black lips and black teeth, with a little black hat on top of his head, and his name is Art the Clown. Now, Art is the antagonist of the movie Terrifier, directed by Damien Leone on a budget of $35,000 and was released in 2016. And in a lot of ways, Terrifier feels like an 80s grindhouse movie. The movie opens with a horribly disfigured woman giving an interview on TV, which we are watching on an old CRT television in a dingy basement of some kind. In the interview, we find out that the disfigured woman was attacked by Art the Clown a year ago on Halloween, and she survived when Art was shot dead by the police. As the TV interview continues, we see Art the Clown putting on his makeup and choosing his weapons of choice that he carries around in a bin bag, before he kicks the TV, smashing the screen, and ventures into the night to claim his victims. And to be perfectly honest, that is the plot of the movie, plain and simple. Now, I will say right now, if you're not into gore, this movie probably isn't for you. The kills are very, very disturbing, and like I said, very, very gory. It's almost as though, well, it is as though the characters are just introduced to be killed off. Don't root for any of the characters in this film to survive, because it's not that kind of movie. I don't think there's one kill in this movie that isn't disturbing, and every single kill in this movie is intended to shock you, so be prepared. There is one particular scene in the movie, and I'm sure that if you've seen it, you will agree with me, it's probably the worst. It involves a scene where a woman is being hung upside down by her legs as Art the Clown saws her in half, and believe me, there is a lot more detail to that scene that I could have included, but have chosen not to. And the man behind the mask is David Howard Thornton, who really does a fantastic job at portraying Art the Clown in a really unnerving way, especially when you compare it to some of the other clowns that have come and gone over the years. Another reason I think David Howard Thornton did a fantastic job with this character is because Art the Clown does not speak. He is a mime clown. He is deadly silent throughout the movie, so David Howard Thornton had to think of other ways to bring the character to life, with the way he moves and the way he looks at his prey and the way he plays with his kills. Saying that, one of my favourite scenes in the movie isn't actually a gory scene. It's a scene where Art the Clown is sat in a cafe staring down one of his later victims. And it's really unsettling the way David Howard Thornton presented himself in this scene. He did a really good job at getting across this menace without actually speaking any words. He did it with just a stare. Art the Clown has no one-liners like Freddy Krueger would have. He has no creepy dialogue, and in many ways is a lot like Michael Myers, but even more silent. Even when Art is injured, he does not make a sound. He doesn't scream or groan. You can't even hear him breathe. But unlike Michael Myers, Art the Clown is somewhat more comical when it comes to his movements, his expressions, his mannerisms. He's somewhat more theatrical when it comes to his kills. And this killer clown horror movie does not hold back in any way. When the blood flows, it flows in buckets, and with each kill that Art the Clown carries out, the next one always seems to be more disturbing than the last. And this movie is a low budget movie, and I think in many ways it does show, but I think it also adds to the charm of the movie. The special effects in this movie involving mutilation, decapitation, and many of the other ways that Art the Clown kills his victims do look fake, but at the same time they look kind of real. It's that kind of middle ground between real and fake, which ultimately make you turn away from the screen sometimes because it's just that disturbing. Now, I'll admit I'm not normally a fan of over-the-top gory movies, but for some reason I kind of like this movie, and I think the main reason why I like this movie is because of the mystery surrounding Art the Clown. Who is he? What is he? Is he human? Is he a demon? Is he a supernatural entity? The mystery surrounding Art the Clown isn't really explored much in this movie. We are still left wondering what exactly Art the Clown is. All we know is that he can die and then come back, a lot like Michael Myers. But we do have a little bit more insight into the character of Art the Clown that actually came to light before this movie. Before Terrifier, the director of this movie, Damien Leone, brought Art the Clown into the spotlight when he made a short horror film called The Ninth Circle in 2008.
Please stop!
And then in 2011, Art the Clown was the star of another short film named Terrifier, not the movie we're talking about at the moment. And then in 2013, these short films starring Art the Clown were incorporated into a feature-length anthology film for Halloween. and that film was called All Hallows Eve. And in this movie, Art the Clown was played by actor Mike Gianelli, who stepped away from the role after this film. And he did play Art the Clown really well. And he did have a slightly different look compared to the version of Art the Clown we know now, played by David Howard Thornton, but the menace of the character is still there. Now, it would seem that the critics of this film either love the film or hate it. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground. And I think the main reason for that is because of the lack of the story and the lack of explanation for who Art the Clown is. But sometimes I think that works in the favour of the horror film. I think if the character is a mystery, then it kind of works better. It's once you start unravelling that mystery that the character seems to be less interesting somehow. Like I said, this movie is just a series of brutal kills, one after the other, and those kills are very disturbing and relentless, and like I said, you will be disappointed if you are rooting for the victims of this movie to survive. It's not the kind of story that has a Laurie Strode from Halloween or a Nancy Thompson from Nightmare on Elm Street who go up against a killer and survive by the end of the film. It is simply an exploitation horror movie, and the kills come fast and often. But it kind of works, and I do like this movie, and I believe it is perfect for a dark Halloween night. Especially if you're looking for a horror movie that will terrify you, keep you on the edge of your seat and utterly disgusted for 86 minutes long. If that's what you're looking for, Terrifier is perfect for you. Terrifier 2 sees the return of Art the Clown, and the movie starts directly after the end of the last movie, which was just a straight up grindhouse horror slasher with no real plot in my opinion. It was just one shocking kill after the other, and it was awesome. The last movie ran at 1 hour 24 minutes and was made with a budget of $35,000. Terrifier 2 was made on a budget of $250,000 and this time runs at 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I've got to say, I've heard a few people complain about the runtime, saying that it was too long and could have been cut in parts, but I actually didn't mind it. Now, just like the last movie, Terrifier 2 definitely does deliver on the horrific, grotesque kills, and they are very gory and over the top, and I believe they are trying to outdo the first movie, which they succeed at doing. This is probably one of the most violent, gory movies I have ever seen, and it's not necessarily just because of the gore, although that does play a massive part in it. It's the sadistic ways that Art dispatches of his victims. He has no moral compass, he has no sympathy, he is purely evil and wants to inflict as much pain and damage as he possibly can. But unlike the first movie, which was just kill after kill after kill with no real story at all, this time in Terrifier 2 there is a story to follow. This time around the movie has a heroine that we can root for, unlike the first movie where everyone was a victim. The movie starts off where the last ended, with Art the Clown coming back to life in the morgue after shooting himself in the head at the end of the first movie, and straight away we are into the first kill, as Art murders a coroner with a hammer as well as other things, and of course with the usual twisted humour that comes with it. And straight away you know that this movie has not toned down the violence in any way. If anything, the kills are worse, especially as you get further on into the movie. The shock level has been cranked up a lot. After the first kill, Art goes to a laundrette to clean his bloodied clothes. I guess he's bothered about his appearance. And it's in the laundrette where we first see some kind of plot taking place, as we don't exactly know how Art came back to life at this point. Now, whilst Art is waiting in the laundrette for his blood-soaked costume to wash, his attention is captured by a young girl dressed as a clown. The outfit is somewhat similar to Art's outfit, but she's clearly demonic. You get the feeling, or at least I did, that this demonic clown girl resurrected Art from the dead, although just like Art, she's also deadly silent and it's not exactly explained who or what she is. And initially I wasn't sure if the young clown girl was just in Art's head, if he was imagining her, but as the movie progresses we can see that she can make herself known to other people. And then the movie jumps forward a year to the next Halloween, and it's in this scene that we meet our heroine of the movie, called Sienna. Sienna is played by Lauren Rivera, and this I believe is her first leading role. And she is very good in this movie, and I enjoyed her performance a lot, and she plays a slasher high school teen perfectly, and she's also a bit of a badass. In fact, most of the cast in this movie are cast very well. When we first meet Sienna, we see that she is making some finishing touches to her Halloween outfit, which is some kind of angelic warrior costume, a little like Xena Warrior Princess, but with wings. There's a scene what comes a little later where we see Sienna having a very strange vivid nightmare where she actually encounters Art the Clown. And before we go on, this dream sequence is actually brilliant and very disturbing at the same time. And this sequence even has its own musical piece called The Clown Cafe.
Drop on by the Clown Cafe, your favorite meals on wheels. The menu is disgusting and it's full of special deals.
Now at first I found this scene somewhat perplexing. I wasn't sure at first if Sienna was having some kind of vision or whether Art the Clown was actually infiltrating a dream like some kind of Freddy Krueger character. But for me, if the dream did anything, it suggested this connection between Sienna and Art the Clown. Now the dream itself is very strange. Sienna wakes up in the nightmare dressed in children's clothing with pigtails, and the nightmare takes place in a white studio with teenagers sitting on swings and climbing frames, and there's a nun in the background as well who is begging for someone to help a homeless man and feed him, whilst on the other side of the set a strange commercial is being shot selling Art the Clown cereal, and it's filled with bugs and glass and razor blades and all horrible stuff which this little boy is gladly digging into. And whilst all this is going on, everyone in the dream is singing along to a song called The Clown Cafe, and I found this a really interesting song choice. It was both creepy and surreal at the same time, and it kind of sounded like a piece of music from a child's TV show, which is fitting for the scene and makes me wonder if this song will now be the theme song for Art the Clown, or at least a tune that went along with the song. A little bit like Michael Myers has his own theme tune and Freddy Krueger has her own theme tune. Art the Clown needs his own theme tune, and this may well be it, especially since the song was at the end of the actual movie, which tells me that they're trying to push it into our brains, so maybe in Terrifier 3 that tune will come back. Now all of a sudden Art the Clown appears on a little tricycle and he starts handing out sweets to everyone like lollipops and popcorn, but he hands Sienna a box which is wrapped up. She unwraps it and she sees that it's got a beating heart inside, which is surrounded by gunk and worms and all sorts of horrible things. And then we see Art the Clown digging deep into his bin bag of what we now know as weapons because we've seen the first film, and he digs out a Tommy gun and starts just mowing everyone down in the studio, and this bit is extremely graphic and gory to the extreme. They must have used so many blood squibs in this scene, probably even rivaling RoboCop. As all this carnage is going on, Sienna is injured and she's dragging herself across the floor to the cereal advert set piece, where she plunges her hand into the cereal box, and as she pulls it out we see that her hand is all torn and bloody and covered in glass and bugs and all kinds of gross stuff like that. As Art the Clown approaches, Sienna plunges her hand back into the cereal box as though she's looking for something. He goes to engulf her in flames. She pulls out the sword that her father made her for the Halloween costume and deflects the flames, and instantly wakes up in her bedroom to see that the wings that she's created for part of her costume are on fire, as though the flames have somehow come out of the dream and into real life. And after the flames die down, everything is ruined apart from the sword. This is foreshadowing at its best. Now obviously this is setting up some kind of plot point that suggests that Sienna is destined to go up against Art the Clown, and maybe she's the only one that can defeat him. The director also stated that the whole scene was a test for Sienna to see if she had what it takes to go up against Art the Clown, to prepare her, and in some ways pulling the sword from the clown cereal box reflected King Arthur pulling the sword from the Sword in the Stone, meaning that she was worthy. And I thought that the movie kind of made it very obvious that this Halloween costume that Sienna is designing based off her father's sketches is going to be like her battle armour when she finally goes up against Art the Clown. And it also suggests that the sword may play an important part in the end of the movie. I found this an obvious plot point, and I think most would, but instead of the obvious plot point annoying me like it usually would, I actually found it more exciting, and I was actually looking forward for the eventual fight between Art the Clown and Sienna. And this story that has been built, although not a overly complicated story, is really good to see, especially after the first movie, which was just a killing spree. This movie is setting up a kind of good versus evil dynamic, with Sienna being in a badass angelic costume and Art the Clown obviously being evil incarnate. Now, just like the last movie, the kills in this movie are horrifying and they all seem to be equally as deranged. But just like the last movie, there's one particular scene that stands out to me that is horrendous, which involves limbs being ripped off, a scalp removed, an eye slashed and skin sliced and pulled away from the victim's body. And then, just when you think it's all over, Art returns to soak the woman in bleach and rub pure salt into her wounds. And it's a hard watch and totally relentless, and I do feel that this is supposed to be the talking point of the movie, as was the hacksaw scene in the first movie. But unlike the hacksaw scene, which maybe lasted about 30 seconds in the first movie, this scene lasts quite a bit. They really do drag it out, and then just when you think the scene is over and they cut away to another scene, they actually return to it later on where he is still playing with the dead body, or what you think is a dead body, because she actually still wakes up, and the state she's in, it's actually quite impossible for her to wake up from that, and it just makes it that more horrifying. Like I said, the kills that come before and after are equally as shocking, just not as drawn out, but certainly long enough to make you feel very uncomfortable. Now, although Terrifier 2 does give us some character development and does indeed give us a movie with a story, I feel it still left me wanting more. I don't feel like we got enough insight into Art the Clown and who he actually is, apart from the strange connection with him and this new sidekick, the demon clown girl. And then of course we have this strange connection between Art the Clown, Sienna and her brother and her deceased father, who seem to be having some kind of visions of Art the Clown, or maybe he was attempting to stop Art the Clown from killing, who knows, maybe we'll find out at a later date. But there is this connection that is built up. But for me, there was still a lot of things that were left unanswered that I really wanted some answers to. Maybe we'll get that in Terrifier 3. And that's what this movie does. It actually does deliver at giving you more story, more plot, more character development. But at the same time, it also leaves you with more questions that you really want the answers to. And I've also got a theory that is also going around the internet at the moment as well, that Art the Clown may be Sienna's father. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because there's this weird connection between Art the Clown, Sienna and the brother that isn't really explained why he's drawn to these characters and why he's attempting to kill them. There's also a scene in the movie where Art the Clown had the chance to kill Sienna's brother, but he chose to drug him instead and take him to another location, which says to me there's something more going on in the background, and as of yet, we just don't know what it is. In short, I really like this movie. I think it is very, very good. If you're not into gore, then it's probably not for you, just like the first movie. But this movie was a vast improvement over the first movie, with the inclusion of some kind of plot and some kind of story, and they seem to be building up some kind of mythos as well around these characters, and I for one cannot wait for Terrifier 3.